Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Nishit Kumar, bringing glimpses of major developments of the day from across the globe. The headlines. New Delhi demands senior Pak diplomat to lodge strong protest against terror attack in Jammu. G20 summit begins today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to join the summit virtually. Terror flow across Durand Line should stop to ensure peace in Afghanistan, states India at the UN Security Council. Britain and Canada strike trade deal to protect the flow of $27 billion worth goods and services. And Pfizer applies for emergency use authorization for its COVID-19 vaccine. India on Saturday summoned Pakistan's charge d'affaires and lodged a strong protest over a foiled terror attack in Jammu on the 19th of November. Security forces in Nagrota, Jammu and Kashmir, foiled a major terrorist attempt by Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed on that day. India demanded that Pakistan must stop supporting terrorists and terror groups operating from its territory and dismantle the terror infrastructure. New Delhi also asked Islamabad to fulfill its international obligations and bilateral commitments to not allow any territory under its control to be used for terrorism against India in any manner. The 15th edition of G20 Summit gets underway in a virtual format in Riyadh today. This will be the second meeting of top leaders of the world. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi will attend the summit virtually. The two-day summit will be chaired by Saudi Arabia, and the theme is Realizing the Opportunities of 21st Century for All. The summit is the second G20 leaders meeting this year. The focus of the G20 summit will be on an inclusive, resilient and sustainable recovery from COVID-19. During the summit, the leaders will discuss pandemic preparedness and the ways and means to restore jobs. India will enter the G20 Troika along with Saudi Arabia when Italy will take over the presidency of the G20 on the 1st of December this year. In Afghanistan, at least 8 civilians were killed while 31 others were injured in a series of rocket attacks in and around residential areas in the Afghan capital of Kabul. The terror attacks in the country have yet to come to a halt despite the ongoing peace efforts. The attack follows the one early this month in which several gunmen stormed Kabul University campus. At least 35 people, most of them students, were killed, while more than 50 persons were injured in the attack. India has slammed Pakistan at the United Nations Security Council UNSC for destabilizing Afghanistan. It has asked that terror flow across Durand Line should stop. Durand Line is the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. India's envoy to United Nations, T.H. Tirumurti, speaking at a RIA Formula meeting of the United Nations Security Council, said there needs to be zero tolerance of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Mr. Tirumurti listed measures for the Security Council to ensure peace and stability in Afghanistan and the region as a whole.
Firstly, the peace process must be Afghan-led, Afghan-owned and Afghan-controlled. Secondly, there needs to be zero tolerance of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Afghanistan can succeed only when terrorism no longer flows across the Durand Line. Thirdly, the international community simply cannot afford to lose the gains of the last 2 decades. In particular, India is convinced that the rights of women needs to be strongly protected. Gender mainstreaming and safeguards are integral to the future of Afghanistan, and we appreciate the remarks of the President of Afghanistan in this context.
Foreign Secretary of India, Mr. Harshvardhan Shringla, on Saturday said that a strong proponent of a peaceful and rules-based international legal order, India supports the PCA and its mandate to resolve international disputes. He was addressing the Third Permanent Court of Arbitration PCA India Conference. Mr. Shringla said that the host country agreement signed by India in 2008 established a legal framework under which future PCA administered proceedings can be conducted in India. He stated that India is committed to supporting the dispute resolution sector and encouraging the development of the subcontinent as an important global hub for international arbitration. This is All India Radio, giving you the world news. Britain and Canada struck a rollover trade deal on Saturday to protect the flow of $27 billion worth of goods and services between them. They also vowed to start talks on another post-Brexit agreement next year. In a statement, UK's International Trade Secretary said that the agreement underpins £20 billion worth of trade and locks in certainty for thousands of jobs. Kremlin has banned entry to 25 British citizens in retaliation for similar measures by Britain on Saturday. The Russian Foreign Ministry said that actions of the British side look like an attempt to interfere in another country's internal affairs and put pressure on the Russian justice system. It didn't disclose the names of the 25 persons. Britain has said that Russian nationals were involved in the mistreatment and death of lawyer Sergei Magnitsky and banned their entry. The Ethiopian government on Saturday said its forces had seized another town in the capital of northern Tigray region. The Ethiopian Prime Minister, in a tweet, dismissed all news of mediation between the TPLF and the federal government of Ethiopia as fake news. Taiwan's foreign minister has expressed confidence in making progress on a bilateral trade agreement with the USA under the President-elect Joe Biden. The minister was speaking after the first US-Taiwan Economic Prosperity Partnership Dialogue on Saturday. The APEC economic leaders have issued the Kuala Lumpur Declaration underscoring their commitment to recovery from the pandemic. This will be along the lines of sustainable, inclusive and resilient economic growth for the Asia-Pacific region. The 21-member APEC grouping also adopted the Putrajaya Vision 2040. It envisages an open, dynamic, resilient and peaceful Asia-Pacific community by 2040. The 24th edition of Malabar Maritime Exercise hosted by Indian Navy in 2 phases concluded in the Arabian Sea on Saturday. The joint exercise involving the naval forces of India, US, Japan and Australia conducted the first phase between 3rd to 6th November off the eastern coast of Visakhapatnam. The 24th edition of Malabar was conducted in a non-contact at sea only format in the backdrop of COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a reflection of the commitment of the participating countries to support a free, open, inclusive Indo-Pacific as well as a rules-based international order. Now, the coronavirus updates from around the world. US President Donald Trump's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., has tested positive for COVID-19 and is quarantining without symptoms, his spokesman said. Canada's largest city, Toronto, is moving back into lockdown after a spike in COVID-19 cases across the country. The city will close most non-essential businesses and services beginning Monday. Pfizer applies emergency use for COVID-19 vaccine in the U.S. The company in a press release on Friday stated that they have approached the U.S. Federal Drug Administration FDA for emergency use authorization EUA. It further read that the vaccine efficacy rate is 95% with no serious safety concerns observed to date. Ban on large public gatherings were brazenly flouted in Pakistan on Saturday. Tens of thousands of people flocked to the streets for the funeral of a hardline Pakistani cleric in Lahore. Khadim Hussain Rizvi, 54, died of cardiac arrest on Thursday, days after leading a violent protest march to the capital Islamabad against the publication in France of cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad. Pakistani government has banned big events and meetings as the daily coronavirus infections have been on the rise. And now moving on to sports, International Olympic Committee IOC Chief Thomas Bach expressed confidence on Monday that the Tokyo Games will be held successfully next year, with even spectators being allowed to attend. And in football, Chelsea defeated Newcastle 2-0 at St. James Park. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnava Jan, by artists from Turkey. And with that, we end this bulletin. See you at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.